Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where this week I've got three very special guests on again to preview the massive game on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tottenham Hotspur take on Chelsea, but of course Spurs are sitting in the top four right now and Chelsea are a mid-table team, but we always seem to struggle against Chelsea. So let's see what happens on Sunday. Let's introduce the three very special guests this evening. We've got Lee the Dorset Spur back with us. Lee, how are you?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Just back from holiday, so I'm feeling good at the moment. So ask me in a week or so how I'm feeling, and or ask after Sunday even, and it might be a little bit of a different answer.
Are you feeling good as a Spurs fan though, Lee? That's the most important thing.
Well, I'm feeling good because when I was away, I missed both the Leicester game and the AC Milan game. So I was out of all that stress. So all I've seen is a win against the Spammers. So I'm all right. I'm okay with that.
Good stuff. Well, lovely to have you back on. We've also got Holly back with us. Holly, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me on again. It's nice to chat to you guys and to everybody in the chat. I'm feeling all right. I'm glad it's Friday. Let's put it that way.
Holly, very early on, let's get a plug in for your channel. Tell everyone what you do and tell everyone about your channel.
So I just do. It's called Holly's Hotspurs Live every Monday. I just kind of dissect the game that's just gone and preview the game coming up. You can find it under my name, Holly Agambar. So yeah, thank you, Chris, for letting me do that and jumping on with you.
Thank you very much. And we've also got Gareth back with us, channel regular. Gareth, how are you?
All good, Chris. It's great to be on before a game, so we can relax a wee bit tonight. Don't have to go too hard tonight on the team or the manager, so I can just relax and get ready for the weekend. Big game, so looking forward to it.
Gareth, let's start the show with you. Of course, we've just come off a 2-0 win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against West Ham. What did you make of that game? And it's nice to see Spurs back in the top four.
That's like Chris, exactly. The game first half was quite pedestrian pace, kind of what we've been accustomed to this season. But most games, especially at home, we've been able to rally, and it was a very one-sided second half. West Ham rarely threatened. They had that one chance after we scored, but it was really comfortable once we got that first goal. We got the second with Sonny coming off the bench. I'm sure we'll be talking about Sonny tonight. As he better coming off the bench. Is there a nurse on in the background there somewhere?
Lee, would you mind just muting your mic? I think we're getting a lot of background noise from your family.
I'm looking after my granddaughter's here today, so she's having a bit of a chin wag in the next room.
Great family night for Lee. As I said, Sonny coming off the bench, I'm sure we'll speak about that later on with the team selection for Sunday. But look, we put West Ham to bed. Probably I expected it to be a much tougher game because West Ham usually really turn up for us, especially when they come away to us. They always seem to give us a hard game. But it was comfortable, Chris, and you have to give the boys credit. Certain players that have been criticised have stepped up. There's a lot of question marks raised about Ben Davis being at left wing back. He had a solid game. Emerson seems to be getting better and better by the game, which is crazy. But no, look, great result. But it counts for nothing if we don't build on it this weekend.
Holly, let's come to you on the same question. The West Ham game, it was a dull 45 minutes, but that second half, it seemed to be very comfortable for Spurs. West Ham didn't really give a lot, did they, in that second 45 minutes?
It was really strange because, like Gareth has kind of said, you kind of expect West Ham to turn up for this fixture, and throughout they just were non-existent, and it is very bizarre. But I thought we managed the game well. Like you said, the first 45 minutes was a snooze fest. I thought it was slightly better though in recent games. Obviously, that Leicester defeat, probably less spoken about that the better. But again, I feel like we're slowly getting into the game. But again, it takes 45 minutes, and it's like, what do we need to do to wake ourselves up in the first half? Hopefully Chelsea is a different story. But yeah, you're right. Second half was a breeze. Emerson Royale, I've given him so much criticism, but somehow I managed to jinx players for the best because he is playing out of his skin at the moment, which is great. So yeah, credit to the boys for the second half. Just hope against Chelsea we do come out first half steaming.
Holly, what do you put that down to, though? Because beating the champions Manchester City 1 week, we then travel to Leicester, we get absolutely thumped up there. We come back, we beat West Ham. How would you describe these last few weeks?
I would say it's probably cliche, but probably a roller coaster because you never know what you're going to expect with Spurs. And it's so infuriating because 1 week, like you say, we're breezing through it. The next week, it's a complete meltdown out of nowhere. And I don't understand how that happens, especially against the likes of Leicester. And then to go to West Ham and let them come to our ground, we don't let them really get a minute of the ball. It's a bit like, okay, so we've lost 1 week and then the next week we've managed to beat our London rivals. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I think it's possibly that determination to be like, okay, we've got West Ham. We know they want to come to us and do one over us, and we managed to pull one out the bag. I think it's. I don't want to say it, but it feels like, oh, it's only Leicester. We'll be fine against Leicester, or it's West Ham. We got to be up for this game. I think it's that kind of mentality. We're never on it all the time because of the opposition we're playing, I think.
Lee, let's come to you. Now, you just said you were on holiday during that Leicester game. You know, we'd just beaten the champions, Manchester City. We then travelled to Leicester. You must have been very surprised by that performance and result. But then, of course, we've turned it around against West Ham. I know we're going to be talking about the Chelsea game shortly. It's going to be a very tough game on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But how would you describe the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, like Holly says, it's a bit of a roller coaster. You just never know what you're going to get with Tottenham, do you? And to be honest with you, I do honestly believe, and I've said it many times, that you just don't know what can happen in the Premier League. Any team can beat any team. It's just a really strange thing, and that's what makes the Premier League better than a lot of other leagues, because you can get that out of the hat sort of result, like Southampton against Chelsea last week and stuff like that, and us beating City. You know, people don't see it coming, so when it happens, it's a bit of a shock and stuff. So I just think it's the competition of the Premier League. I think anyone can beat anyone on their day, and it just depends on which team turns up and who wants it the most. And how they set out, like the West Ham game. I mean, they were just so anti. They weren't interested. They wasn't attacking. They wasn't pushing or anything. And I think that played into our hands, into the fact that we got like, well, okay, they're not really gonna trouble us, so we might as well go for it. And I think that's the mentality of why it went the way it did.
Lee, how are you feeling ahead of this Chelsea game?
Mate, I hate Chelsea. You know, I really hate that club. Because we just have such a crap record against them. It's like, you know, they call us, you know, 3-point lane and all that sort of stuff. And it's just infuriating because there's no reason for it. I mean, they've had their success and all the rest of it. And that's great for them. But there should be opportunities for us to have beat them. And we just don't seem to be able to. And that's what really, really infuriates me. The fact that they're mid-table and going through a crisis doesn't mean anything. I think they'll still come and they'll still give us a really difficult game. And I'm not, and I hate to say it, but I'm not confident that we're just going to turn them over just because they are where they are. Because like I just said, anyone can beat anybody on their day. So you really just don't know what's going to happen. But we've got to break that hoodoo at some point.
Well, we do have a terrible record against Chelsea at our brand new home, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Chelsea have won all 3 league matches at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium by an aggregate score of 6-0. Gareth, why do we seem to struggle against Chelsea?
It's a funny one, Chris, because I was going to say just before you said it there, I think we've actually played them 4 times. If you include last year's cup game, the second leg of the Cowlin Cup or the League Cup. I mean, we lost that game as well. I don't think have we actually scored a goal against them at our new stadium? I'm not sure. I think we've lost every game. I think we lost 3-0. We've lost 1-0 twice and 2-0. So we haven't actually scored a goal against them.
We did actually beat them in a cup competition a couple of years back. But of course,
right,
we're talking about league competition. But in league competition, we have not scored a goal past them. Aggregate score of 6-0 out of 3 league games.
And then it's the complete opposite with Man City. We've beat them every time we've played them. So it's funny how records can set in. And of course, if you look at the majority of our squad, they would have been present for most of the Lime games. So that's going to play a part in mentality. And our record at Stamford Bridge is terrible as well. So ones against Chelsea have been pretty scarce in the last 10, 15 years. But definitely over the last 3 or 4 years, we haven't had that. And we've not actually turned up against them as well, Chris, which has been poor. We've been well beat in all them Premier League games. So, as I said, we spoke about West Ham. Holly was saying she was surprised that West Ham didn't turn up, and you'd be surprised if Chelsea didn't turn up on Sunday, because I think for Chelsea were their biggest game as well. So, look, I've been speaking to some of my mates this week. They're Liverpool fans, and they're like, do you know what? If Chelsea want one game at the minute, it's probably Spurs because of their record against them. So make no mistake about it, it's going to be a tough game, Chris. And as you said there, going to Leicester one week and getting beating Man City the other week, it's like our good friend Gary. We're like a bag of pick a mix. You don't know if you're going to get a strawberry or a fried egg at the minute.
Well, I'll tell you what, I spoke to Gary yesterday, and he believes that we're going to lose. That's what he said.
Well, he probably doesn't want to say anything in front of Victoria because she's a big Chelsea fan, isn't she? So.
That's true. That's true. Well, Tottenham have won 7 of their 61 Premier League games against Chelsea and are winless in the past 8 top-flight meetings. This game on Sunday will be the 150th league meeting between the two sides. Spurs winning 47, Chelsea winning 64, and 38 of them finishing as a draw. Chelsea have only won 1 of their last 10 matches in all competitions in 2023, and just 2 of their last 14 league games. They have scored 8 goals in those 14 matches, the fewest of any side during that run. Holly, dare I say it, this is probably the best time to play Chelsea, isn't it?
It really is. Again, with our record against them this season, where we managed to pip a point off them at the Bridge, also makes you feel a little bit hopeful. Like you said, that run of form at the minute is not looking great for them. Also, I think to myself, we're at home. Surely after beating West Ham, all of us fans are going to be up for it. So surely the team must be as well. But yeah, off of form, the fact that Potter is having an absolute mare, the fact that we've seen Decky in the week doing his Ron Weasley impression, it just makes you wonder that he's going to go there and do some magic. So yeah, I'm feeling more confident than I ever have before. Let's put it that way.
Well, Chelsea's 9 away games without victory in all competitions is their longest run since the 17-match streak from April 2000 to January 2001. Lee, I want to come to you on the same question. Best time to play them?
I think with Potter still being in charge, I think that's a benefit for us. Dare I say that? Because I think if they'd have lost their manager and had someone come in, I'd be more worried about new manager bounce and all that kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, there's never going to be a better time because of where they are and what they're going through. But I don't know, maybe it's the pessimist in me. Maybe it's because I'm an old man and been through so much of this pain that I kind of always refer back to the Dr. Tottenham will see you now. You're going through your worst period. You desperately need the points to start getting the fans back on Potter's side. Come to Tottenham. They're probably thinking it's a great time to come to us as well. So, yeah, I'm not overly confident. Of course, I want us to smash them. I absolutely want us to smash them. But do I think it's going to happen? I think it's going to be really tight. I think it's going to be really difficult. And I think if we get I think it's more likely to be a draw than anything, if I'm being brutally honest.
Lee, what have you made of the job that Christian Stellini has done in the absence of Antonio Conte?
Well, the results have been great for him, haven't they? I mean, he's done well. He's won all his games and everything. He seems a really good speaker. He seems really assured. The fans are behind him. The guy who does the singing in the Southside Bar, he's got a new song about him that I saw at the weekend, and the fans were right up for that. So I think he's grown on people, and I think he's done as well as he can be. I mean, let's not forget we've got a depleted squad at the moment where he's having to pick some players that he perhaps wouldn't pick. We've lost Bentancur, we've lost Hugo, and so on. Basima, So I mean, he's in a really difficult position. So I think he's doing really well considering where we're at.
Lee, are you surprised by Chelsea's position in the league table right now? Because they got 31 points from 23 games. They seem to be very inconsistent. They've won 8, they've drawn 7, they've lost 8. They've got a goal difference of 0. This is not the sort of place where the normal not even being a Chelsea fan, would expect Chelsea to be in the league table, is it?
Absolutely not. I mean, the Chelsea fans are pulling their hair out. Those that have still got some. I mean, they're losing their shit over it, and it's all going down. It's all going down to Potter, isn't it? But at the same time, you can't keep. I mean, they've had lots of success, even chopping and changing managers, but that's got to come to an end at some point. I mean, they've spent mega money, loads of money on players. How has they all settled in together? How are they all working together and so on? What kind of egos have you got in the change room? How's Potter managing that? So for me, I always like the idea of a bit more consistency, a bit more time for people, and not every man has to be a superstar. And maybe that's what's catching up with them. I mean, I don't know. I'm not close enough to Chelsea to know that, but I just know the Chelsea fans I know are going mad about it and are desperately calling for change, which is crazy, really, when they've had so much change that you would think that they would want some stability moving forward.
What have you made of the job that Graham Potter's done there at the moment, Gareth?
Well, mine goes about 2 years ago. I wanted Potter at Spurs before we appointed Nuno. Look, being a coach myself, like, I sympathise with him. He's got, I think Gary Neville spoke about it during the week, he's got 33 first-team players there. And he said when he was at Valencia, he had 23 players, and he found it difficult because, you're only going to pick 11 players to start, and you're only going to make 3 to 5 subs. Most times you might even make 5 subs. So you've got realistically half of that squad knowing they're not going to play. And with Chelsea out of both club competitions, they're not, they're 1-0 down to Dortmund. So you could possibly have one game a week with all players, which is difficult for any coach, to be honest, Chris. And like, a lot of our fans are calling for us to spend a lot of money, but Chelsea went out and spent an absolute bomb in terms of, they've just went out and spent like a kid in a sweet shop. And it doesn't always bring you success, and especially when they've signed so many young players that have no Premier League experience. They haven't got a striker in their squad, bar the young lad they signed, I think Fofana. Aubameyang's not in favour. They've let Lukaku go, so they're really struggling to score goals, hence why their goal difference is at 0. So, look, you kind of think at some stage Chelsea have to click, but from what I'm seeing, I'm not expecting it to click at all until maybe next season when he can shift some of the players out. I think that's why they were desperate to get rid of the likes of Jorginho they just let him go to Chelsea or the Arsenal for 8 million, just to try and get players out. But they've got a massive squad there. They didn't have to leave Aubameyang out of the Champions League squad and everything. So it's obviously a very difficult job for any coach to go in there. I think even a very experienced coach would struggle. But the fact that Potter's not had that kind of experience at a top club before makes it even more challenging. And they go on what Lee said about Stellini being a great speaker. I think Potter's actually handled the pressure quite well. He doesn't bite at the media. Even when they had that bad decision against West Ham, similar to yourselves with a handball, it was a clear handball in the last minute, and you think they're desperate to win a game. He really had an excuse there. They blamed the referee, but he didn't. So that's one of the things I quite liked about Potter at Brighton. He never looks for excuses beyond he'll blame himself before he looks at anything else. And I'm sure Potter will be desperate to try and fix it, and he'll know the fact that they've got a great record against Spurs. He'll have the players pumped up. But, it's very difficult for a team that's not creating loads of chances and not really playing that well together. A team that's been, they only know each other a few weeks. If you look at all the players that's come in, it's very, very difficult for them just to click in one game. So look at this. I think Chelsea's going to be really there for the taking. Chris, I think it's really, really, really important that we start fast. I don't want to see us come out slow and let Chelsea grow into the game. Because if we let them grow into the game, they might actually think, a Spurs about Bentancur in midfield, they're missing their best midfielder. Forrester hasn't been convincing in nets. I know Reece hasn't, but that game against Leicester, I thought Forrester was poor. So, he didn't have anything to do against West Ham, really. So if they get an inkling that we're there for the ticking, it might give them the confidence that they're searching for. So it's really important we come out of the blocks. If we get in there to goal, Chris, I think we're going to win comfortably. Because I don't really see Chelsea scoring 2, 3, 4 goals. They mostly have one of them, but they haven't been able to score that many goals. So look, as I said, they keep reiterating, start fast and let the game take care of itself from there.
I should have said, actually, today marks the 15th year anniversary of our last trophy win against Chelsea, 2-1 in the League Cup. Does it really seem like 15 years? It's a long time.
Oh, that guy was still at primary school. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea's 8 Premier League games so far in the calendar year of 2023. They've only won 1 out of 8, drawn 4, lost 3. They've only scored 4 goals in those 8 games, 1 in their last 4. They are really struggling for goals at the moment. In today's press conference ahead of the Spurs game, Graham Potter came into the press conference room, joked and said, "I've just come out of a crisis meeting. There is support from the board." This is what you had to say.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm late, guys. Just come out of a crisis meeting. How was it? Oh, still here.
You just joked about a crisis meeting, and there obviously have been reports this week that you've had a message of support from the board. Have you spoken to them this week, and have they put their support behind you?
Yes, I've spoken to them. Yeah, and it's the same as it's always been. There's always been support. I mean, I've been under pressure here for 4 months from you guys. Don't forget. So, I had constant. Have you spoken to the owners, and have you support? So that continues. They've been great. They've been brilliant. I think they also see where we're at the same time, frustrated because the results are where we are, and we have to do better. My quote is, "It's probably the toughest job in football." That was a few weeks ago, and there are lots of factors for that. And again, if you just take the season, a suboptimal pre-season. Speaking to a couple of the experienced guys, sort of thought it was the worst pre-season they've had for different reasons. It's not to blame anybody for different reasons that happened. Then there's
What kind of reasons were they giving for that?
I don't think I want to speak about that. I think it's more just organisationally. It was for different reasons. The tour didn't quite work as well as they'd like, etc., etc. I wasn't there, so I can't say.
Holly, do you think he's under pressure? Do you think it will last until the end of the season?
To be honest with you, I think the Chelsea fans are getting very impatient, and when they're not seeing results, they are probably the biggest fan base to jump on its back, especially when they're so used to winning things and being up that high in the table. I want to say that he will, because again, they bought all these players. It seems an absolute waste to get the players in that the manager wants to then just get rid of them. But again, it's Chelsea. Who really knows? It could go either ways, to be honest.
Well, the team used for Chelsea on Sunday, Azpilicueta, Kante and Pulisic are all out of the game. At the start of the season, of course, in the last meeting in August, the game ended 2-2 at Stamford Bridge. Thomas Tuchel and Antonio Conte having a bit of a scuffle at the end of the game. It seems strange, Holly, doesn't it? The fact that neither manager will be in the dugout on Sunday.
It is very odd. I was hoping for round 2, maybe it would be Stellini that steps up to the mark. But like I say, they're both not going to be there. So it is going to be rather odd. But again, I don't think it's not going to be full of power and passion. I think it's not only is it going to be a game of starting the game fast, it's going to be a game of mentality, psychological warfare. I think that's something that we really need to, add to our game. Because again, it could turn into the Battle of the Bridge, but I feel like we're missing that in these type of games. And this could be the thing that could maybe tear us over the edge to maybe get a result against them at home.
Ollie, you just mentioned that key word there, mentality. Christian Stellini, in his press conference, I've just got a short clip now. He said Spurs must show stronger mentality.
We have the same point we had last season, and we reach the 4th position. We can do it also this year, but we have to feel in confidence to do it. Because last season, when we were lost, all the cup, all the Europa competition, we start to feel in confidence because we have time to work during the week. This season, we hope we don't have this possibility, but mentally we have to be better.
Lee, let's come to you. Stellini's talking about top 4 there. How confident are you right now about Spurs finishing in the top 4?
I'm confident. I'm confident that it can be done for sure. But like he said, it's all about consistency, and that's what we lack, more than anything. And I think, having these injuries now is a real issue because the depth of the squad doesn't feel strong enough with all these other teams kind of baying at you, from behind you, kind of thing. But I think, it's all still to play. It's all still to play for. Until you're out of it, you're still in it, right? And I just think the thing that bothers me most about it is that everyone sees top 4 as a success, you know, and that kind of bothers me, if I'm honest. And I've said that to you way back, talking to you when we was at Wembley, you know, and I'm like, you know, top four, it's like the holy grail. And for me, I'm just not up for that. You know, I want to see us win the FA Cup. You know, I want to see us win the Champions League. You know, if we're going to be in it, let's try to win it. You know, rather than putting all your eggs in just recouping that money all the time, because that's success for the owners, not for the fans. But it's what they kind of play for. So what he was suggesting there is where we came out last season, we got out of all of the cups very, very quickly, one after the other. It then allowed them to concentrate on getting top four, which was the success. For me, I don't see that way. But going back, just if I can go back to the Potter interview, it was really interesting in the way he came out. He was all jovial and laughing and everything, and he did talk quite confidently. But if you watch what he was saying, there was an awful lot in there where he kept saying the situation we're in and circumstances and stuff like that. And when he was pushed on it, he wouldn't really say what those were, which kind of sounds a little bit like excuses, and then put his other, you know, way he was coming across as just a bit of bravado. You know, that's kind of how I read it. Because initially I was like, well, he's a bit confident. And then kind of I just listened to him and I was thinking, no, mate, that's just a bit of bravado there. You're just trying to blag it, you know. And well, that's what I'm hoping anyway. I'm no psychiatrist, but that's what I'm hoping anyway. But yeah, so sorry, I've digressed. But, you know, I'm confident that top four is still there, but it's going to be difficult because teams like Newcastle ain't gonna just give it up, are they? You know, Man United are there. Chelsea, I'm sure that it will come together at some point. I'm sure it will for them, which is really a worry. But, you know, I mean, look at that. Even Fulham, you know, do it on a great season, which is my next door neighbour, be well chuffed because he's a Fulham fan. So, you know, there's a lot still to play for. But I'm confident that we can do it, provided we maintain our consistency and start putting a decent run together. And we generally do better at the back end of a season. So,
Lee, the amount of times I've had a conversation, certainly in the last couple of weeks, with Spurs fans, and they seem to say, I've got a real feeling about the FA Cup this year. You know, 15 years, as I said, 15 years to the day since we won our last trophy. It's about time we won silverware. And, you know, the likes of Harry Kane, Son, Lloris haven't won any silverware at Tottenham. Are you feeling it about the FA Cup this year?
I've got a feeling that we'll get somewhere this year. I do feel that there's an opportunity for us this year. I mean, the last time we won a cup, I had black hair. I mean, that's how long ago it was, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's about time. It's about time we've done something, you know. And I'd just like us to go all out for it. I mean, you need a bit of luck, don't you? I look at the Champions League, getting to that final. We had a lot of luck to get to that final. You know, we weren't playing particularly well. It was a difficult time all round. The football wasn't particularly good, and we got to a final. If only Sissoko just hadn't been pointing, that could have been a whole different story, right? So we just need that bit of luck, and if we get that bit of luck, we can go all the way. And I'd just love to see it. The FA Cup was really special. I know, you know, some of you are too young to know what it feels like to win an FA Cup, but I've been there, and I tell you, there's no feeling like it. You know, for me anyway. So.
The amount of times, Lee, I say that all I want to see is that bus parading down that high road, seeing the likes of Hugo lifting a trophy. Wouldn't it just be amazing?
It would be absolutely amazing. And if you've never had it, honestly, there's no feeling like seeing that happen.
Gareth, let's come to you. Now, this is the lineup that Conte / Stellini went with against West Ham at the weekend. Forster in goal, the back three of Romero, Dier and Lenglet, the wing backs Davis and Emerson, in midfield Skip and Højbjerg, and in the front three of Kulusevski, Richarlison and Kane. Subs at the weekend was Sanchez, Son, Perisic, Danjuma, Porro, Tanganga, Mora, Sarr and Austin. Gareth, what changes would you expect Stellini and Conte to make this weekend against Chelsea?
Look, I think the team picks itself. I think that the one big decision they've got, Richarlison or Son, I think he'll stick with Emerson. I don't think he can come out of the team the way he's playing. Davis, I think the way he played last week as well, I'd be surprised if he changed that up. I think he might bring Porro and Perisic in midweek for the Sheffield game because it's a game you'd expect to see dominant with them being in one division below, so it might suit for more attacking wing backs. And the fact that we are playing so many games as well, there will be rotation. So I think he might have an eye on Wednesday because that's a big game as well, as we've said about the FA Cup. So I think He'll stick with Emerson and he'll stick with Davis. The big ones, Richarlison or Son, and for me, I would put Richarlison on there. Not because I think he's a better player than Son, just for his aggression and the fact that if we do get a goal up, I think Sonny's a great substitute off the bench because if the game stretches, he's your man. I think the first half's going to be pretty tight. I don't really see us blowing Chelsea away. I don't see them doing it to us. I think it's going to be very edgy. And I think that's a game Son at times struggles on because he tries to do too much and he runs with his head down. He gives the ball away. I think like last week when he came on, we were 1-0 up. It really, really suited him. And if you think about him running the players that have played 60 minutes in a high-intensity game, he's your man. And it might seem harsh on Sonny because he did look good when he came on last week. But, his two best performances this season have been against in the Premier League anyway, have been against Leicester and West Ham when he's come off the bench. So, there might be Son in that, Chris. I would stick Richarlison on there just for his aggression, keep Sonny fresh, bring him off the bench, and hopefully he makes it a 2 or 3-0 one and we run away with the points. But look, just as the boys were saying about aggression there, look, I don't think this is the same Chelsea team in terms of we would have seen back in August. Tuchel ain't there. I don't really see the aggression. And Potter, they've brought on a lot of young players who aren't used to the Premier League. So I don't really see that battle of the bridge theme happening. I think it's going to be a different kind of game. So look, it's important we're aggressive, but I don't really see Chelsea being that aggressive because of the personnel they now have. So if we can bully them a wee bit and then get that goal in front, knock their confidence, make them a bit more fragile, Sonny's your man off the bench. I mean, if you're a Chelsea fan and you're seeing Sonny come off the bench with 30 minutes to go, you're terrified.
Ollie, what do you make of the Heung-min Son situation? Because as Gareth said there, benched against Leicester, come off the bench, scored a hat-trick, benched against West Ham, at the weekend, came off the bench, scored again. Is it right that Richarlison is given a chance yet again and a start against Chelsea at the weekend, or should Son be in the starting 11?
It is difficult because we all love Sonny, but when you're sat here thinking it's not that he's not turning up for games, he's just not. I don't think his head's in it, and I think when he comes off from the bench, he has to start straight away, and I think that is a good thing for us. And we always talk about how we've got no impact players on the bench, and to have Sonny sitting on there, be like, right guys, okay, Richarlison's added his aggression. He's a bit of a wind-up merchant. Now let's go and let's put Sonny on. I think that's such a good dynamic to have, and again, we don't have many players off the bench that can really have the impact that Sonny can have. So yeah, I'd say start Richie. And the other one for me is, do you start Emerson when you know Pedro Porro's got a bit of history with Felix? You're thinking, let's put Pedro Porro on, let's wind Felix up in the middle. It's really difficult, but again, Emerson's been playing so well, so does he have that chance to be dropped? Would you drop him? It's very strange. But yeah, in terms of Sonny, it's a very strange situation to be, but again, I don't think it's a bad one. I think it works either way for us, I think.
Do you remember Solskjaer at United? He was brilliant at coming off the bench and scoring goals. That's the kind of we saw him like at the minute. That's what you kind of feel like. He can make a massive impact off the bench, and I think you have to. I know Son will be disappointed, but you have to think about the overall team and would it suit better if Richarlison plays? He's not scoring goals, but he is a handful because he does cause havoc, and he will. Even if he's not playing well, he'll smash somebody and he'll wind Chelsea up, and I think that sometimes is what we're missing a wee bit.
100%. I think that's the thing. I think it'll be a lot of mind games because again, we need to be up for it, but it will be that wind-up merchant that we get from Richarlison. I think like you said, we kind of miss that from Spurs, and I think in a game like this is something we really need. So yeah, bring Sonny off from the bench, I think.
Ollie, what do you make of the performances lately of Emerson Royale? Can you believe it?
It's a madness, honestly. That man's eating 4 Weetabixes before every game. I can't get my head around it because I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm probably not the best person to talk about Emerson because he does wind me up, and I think he wound a lot of players up. But the fact that he's stuck at his game, he's managed to ignore all the hate he's got, and now he's turning out performances week in, week out. It's a big credit to him. But yeah, I think someone's body snatched him or something because he literally looks like a different player.
Ollie, also, what did you make of Ben Davies as left wing back?
Again, I don't know what's gone on with him because it was another performance that he played out of his skin. But again, when you look at the way he crosses the ball, which I think Perisic has been doing quite well, but again, it's kind of peeled off a little bit of latter. So the fact that Davies managed to slot in, because I didn't think he'd have the legs to get back, but again, he was proving that he can do his defensive duties. And I don't know whether that's because we've got Romero in that back line to direct the back line to push across when Davies is pushing up. I'm not too sure, but I think he's done a shift as well. And I actually like the way that a ball's coming into the box now and again to reach reach the likes of Kane, because that's something we really lack, especially from Emerson. We sometimes don't get those crosses. To see Davies pinging them in is something I think we've lacked. So yeah, definitely make it continue.
What changes then, Holly, would you expect Conte and Stellini to make on Sunday, if any?
I don't know. It's difficult because, again, we've managed to beat West Ham, and they're, you would typically say, one of our rivals in that kind of respect. So with Chelsea, it's kind of the same thing. Again, you can't really put them on the same level pegging because it is Chelsea, and we have some sort of mind block against them. I think in terms of consistency, because, again, we lack that consistency, probably keep it the same. I would like to see Pedro Porro start, and I think lots of people would, but I don't know whether that's because he's just a new signing and he's a new sparkly thing. So I don't know whether that's because of it or whether, again, he might be able to wind up Felix. I'm not sure. But I think in terms of consistency, possibly keep it the same. You could probably argue that Sarr might come in and have a run in because he looks so calm on the ball in midfield. But again, with Skip and Højbjerg trying to form that new relationship, would you want to upset the boat or rock the boat too early on? I'm not sure. So personally, maybe keep it the same.
Would you? That's another point, actually, Holly. I was going to make about Sarr and Skip. Do you expect them to, alternate, week by week, or do you think that the partnership is now Skip and Højbjerg?
I think it's too early to say. I think Højbjerg's always going to be that rock. He does now and again irritate me, but I think most players do again have that inconsistency of winding me up. So I think Højbjerg will be the main man just because he's that Viking. He has a strong presence. And I've noticed in his game now that he's got these like tactical bits that happen. Say if there's a foul going down and he gets hit in the head, he'll go down for a little bit longer than he needs to. So his game management is really there. So I think Højbjerg will be the main guy. And I think it'll be Sarr and Skip that alternate. But I think because of how well we played against West Ham, the fact that we're thinking about obviously Richarlison starting over Sonny, I think just to keep the midfield the same, I think would be perfect for Chelsea.
Lee, if you had your choice, would you go with the same starting 11 that beat West Ham?
Out of who's fit? So, yeah.
I just think it's very difficult. When Heung-min Son comes off the bench, how can you then not play him in the next game?
Because if you look at his overall game on the day, I thought he had some difficult moments. There's a few times getting caught in possession and put us under a little bit of pressure. So that bothered me a little bit because he was right back in our own third doing that. So I didn't think he played particularly well. I didn't think he had a storming game. He scored a great goal, and he was set up really well by Harry Kane, who had a good game without scoring. So I don't think he's done enough, in my opinion, to win me over to say, yes, he's back. I think, it's great to see him score a goal. It's great to see him smiling again. And we're all winning him to get back to where he is. But I mean, Stellini said today that he's been carrying an injury or he brought something forward. So that says to me that he's not really 100%. He talked about 70% and all the rest of it. So for me, Richarlison is the best one to be starting with, especially for that aggression, as the other guys have said. Get him on there, get him winding a few up, get him running at them, get him pushing them about and roughing them up a little bit. And then in the last sort of 30 minutes or so, let's get Son on, running at those tired legs and giving them something to think about. For me, I don't think Richarlison has had enough game time really for us to be saying, he's made it or he hasn't. I think he's had a difficult time. He's had an injury and everything else. But we could see in the World Cup what he can do, when he's playing as an out-and-out striker. I mean, maybe why not put him up front and drop Kane back down a little bit to be that provider, because he does that so well. I mean, he's a player who can literally do anything. So for me, I wouldn't change it. I would leave Richarlison in the team. I mean, the other one as well, Emerson, I think he's played well enough to stay in the team. I haven't seen Porro's debut, but by all accounts, it was a disaster class from what I've been told. So yeah. Do you really want to chance that against a team like Chelsea in a game that you really, really need to win to start building that consistency? Maybe he'd be better off in the FA Cup, starting a little bit slower and getting some minutes under his belt there and building his confidence back up. So for me, I think it's pretty much the same team. It picks itself. Even with the Skip and Sarr situation, I think Skip probably edges it by the fact that he's got a little bit more Premier League experience and he's a little bit more maybe aggressive and a little bit more defensive minded when it needs to be. Because I think as much as I want to see us come out fast, as Gareth said, I'm not sure that's going to happen. and I'm not sure Chelsea will want to let that happen, because I think they'll be fearful of something happening, like as Gareth suggested. If we get one, could we get 2 or 3, and then put them really under pressure, because they've got to come at you then, and then that plays into our hands with players like Son coming in. So, sorry, it sounds like I'm waffling a little bit, but you get the point I'm trying to make.
Perisic or Davis for you, Lee?
So I really like Davis. I'm one of those people that's always had a lot of time for him. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a real good, hard-working professional. He's not the slickest. He's not the the superstar and all the rest of it. But I think he will do more, and he will work really, really hard for the team. And as Holly said, if you're playing with wing backs, you need to see crosses going in the box. I mean, how many crosses have we seen going in the box? And it really frustrates me. Emerson on one side, Perisic or Sessegnon on the other side. They're running at someone and then they turn back and play it backwards. And I'm like, no, just beat the man and play the ball in. Give Kane something to put his head on. Give him something, because that's the only place where our attacking is coming from. There's no one apart from Kane dropping deep. There's no one really there to kind of create that flair in the middle to create those chances. So for me, I think Davis did enough to carry on. I really like the kid. I think he's good.
Gareth, where a lot of fans say about Richarlison hasn't been given a lot of game time this season since his summer move from Everton, with the likes of him, where does the game time come from? If Heung-min Son is going to be back in the starting 11, because you've got Dan Juma as well. Where on earth is his game time going to come from?
This is it, Chris. We've got a lot of games coming up, but if you look at every game, it's an important game. Even Sheffield, it's a big game. It's not as if it's a third round. This is a chance to get into the quarterfinal. So again, you have to go semi-strong. You can rotate around a bit, but you can't really gamble on players that haven't kicked the ball for us. So I really think the likes of Dan Juma was signed as cover in case there was an injury to Richarlison or Sean, and he was really, really needed. Because he come on against Preston, we haven't seen him since, have we? He come on against Leicester too, didn't he, for the last sort of 10 minutes when the game is over. So he's not really going to get a fair chance. Richarlison, I think that injury came at a really, he got them goals against Marseille, and then he played against Leicester and he got that injury, didn't he? And he was out for so long, didn't really get a chance today, and then he came back and he played in the World Cup, did really, really well, buzzing, probably full of confidence, comes back, and then he doesn't really get a look on. And it's funny, this week we've been hearing that it was kind of a Levy signing. He was the one really pushing for Richarlison, whereas maybe we probably thought it was Conte looking for him, because he's that type of player that Conte likes, aggressive, proven in the Premier League. But it sounds as if it was Levy that was pushing for that signing. So maybe that explains why Richarlison hasn't been given so much game time that we maybe expected. But I think with Sonny not performing for most of the season, you have to give Richarlison a chance. It's no good playing him 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I think if he's getting a start like last week, and he didn't have a great game, but the first half was quite difficult. We didn't really create anything. West Ham were very, very deep. It was only when we got that goal the game really changed, and he come off shortly after that. So, look, I think for in games against Richarlison, if he's not scoring, he can still be useful. And it's a pity that he's been signed for so much money, because I think when you sign a player for 60 million, you expect them to be a word beater. And if you watch Richarlison at Everton, he's not that kind of player. He can produce good moments, but he's not a consistent, top player that's going to win you games. So I think we just have to play these strengths at the minute, Chris. You get him on the team on Sunday, and you let Sonny come off the bench, and if it works again, and Sonny might get frustrated if it keeps happening, where he's coming off the bench to score and not getting games. But look, it should be good competition for Sonny. Maybe that's what he needs. If Richarlison starts scoring goals, then all of a sudden there is a big fight for that position. And I think that's what we need going into the second part, the later part of the season, because we're in 3 competitions, Chris, and Sheffield United are very, very beatable. They're on a really bad run at the minute. They've lost their last couple of games. So we're probably playing them at a good time. AC Milan, we spoke about it a few weeks ago. They're not a great side, even though they're 1-0 up. I think that's a game we can very much turn around. So you could be looking at it in March. We're still in 3 competitions, and we're still in a favourable position for the top 4. So we're still going to have to rotate a bit, and that's where Conte has to earn his magic like he did last season, because he has to get the team selection right. If he keeps playing the same players week in, week out, will not last, because last season, as Lee rightly says, we were able to prepare one game a week from March to May because we went out of the Cup to Middlesbrough. We might not have that luxury this year, so we will have to rotate. And that is where he has to earn his money. And if he gets us into the top four and wins us a cup, then I'm going to have to issue a full apology. So,
where is this game going to be won? Give me the Chelsea player that you're most frightened of, Gareth, and give me a prediction for Sunday.
You know what? I haven't seen a lot of him because Potter's been changing it so much. He rarely names the same team, so I literally couldn't tell you what formation. I think there was one game last week he changed his formation 3 times in the same 45 minutes. So I think there's a lot. I think what Paul Merson was saying, he needs to pick his team and stick to it, but he does change a lot. So it's impossible to know what team he's going to play. I would expect the lad Felix to play. He looks talented. You know, I've seen a bit of the lad they were from Ukraine, Mudryk. He's frightening in terms of his pace. He played that game against Liverpool when he came on, and I thought, well, this boy looks special, but it hasn't really happened since. So if he played, that would be a real test for Emerson if he was at himself. And I think that is why Emerson will play, because Porro had that disaster against Leicester, and Perisic, for me, whilst he does deliver good crosses, he looks a really, really poor defender. So I think Davis gives you that solid option at the back. So hard to know. I think them two in particular are the two to watch out for. But do you know what? I'm really confident. I think if we come out of the blocks, get that early goal, which we have been doing a bit more. We know in the last few games we have been scoring the first goal. Even against Leicester, when we got beat, we scored the first goal. So that has been happening a bit more frequent. I think if we can get that early goal, we don't take a handbrake off. We push and push and push, and we won the game comfortably. I don't really see this Chelsea team. I don't see we spoke about mentality. I don't think this Chelsea team has the mentality of Chelsea teams before, because they're so inexperienced. They haven't really gelled as a team. You know, they're there to be taken, Chris. So I think we're going to win the game, and I'm going to say we're going to win 2-0.
2-0. Holly, what are you going to go for?
It's definitely a goal going in either net, so I'm going to go 2-1. I think I still don't think Foster's going to be that confident in goal. But again, if we can manage to keep them out of our half, which I think strangely we will have a lot of possession. I think, especially the way we played against West Ham, like Gareth has said, in terms of mentality for Chelsea, I don't think they're going to be in high spirits. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. I think.
I agree with you, Holly. I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I think we're going to do it on Sunday. Lee, what are you thinking?
I think the difficulty for Chelsea is that, like,
as a family club over, as a time for disco now, is all the adults coming on.
Oh, can you hear music now? What is it? What's going on?
I thought it was going to be Lee's late night party coming up there. I don't know what's going on.
She's now the missus has just now turned the Alexa off. You just had to turn that Alexa off. Yeah, she's turned it off.
The kids are already bed.
She's probably watching Jeffy on YouTube in the other room. So going back to football, if you can just let me finish my thing, because you put me out of my rhythm now. So I agree with Gareth in the fact that they're very because he keeps chopping and changing the team, and because they're very experienced players. I'm not sure that they will be the same sort of Chelsea that would give us like a battle of the bridge scenario. So I think, you know, there is a good opportunity there. A lot depends on how we do rather than how they do. But I hate to say it, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
Do you know what, Lee? One negative thing from last weekend against West Ham, after 55 seconds, Bowen had a chance, which he put wide. What is it about Spurs and not starting the way that we should be starting games? Because after 55 seconds, them having a glorious chance.
You know what? I think we come out with the mentality of keeping it tight and trying to defend and frustrate the other team, but we're just not any good at it. That's my opinion. I think Conte comes out and says, right, keep it tight. Let them play, give them the ball, let them play, let them get tired, and let them pass it around and we hit them on the break and all the rest of it, and we grow into the game. And that's not our strength. We're just not very good at that. I think
You
he
know,
should
I'll
be
be so
playing to our
disappointed if
strength.
we do that. I'll be so
Yeah.
disappointed if we do that because Chelsea, like, they're not in a good place. We shouldn't be letting them come on to us.
No, absolutely. But it was the same at West Ham, wasn't it? West Ham were in the bottom three, and yet we were still giving them that time in the first half of that. I mean, the first half against West Ham was boring. It was poor football. It was boring, and everyone was moaning. People were saying about the atmosphere at White Hart Lane. It started off, in my opinion, it started off really well. There was some good atmosphere going, and that it got worse as the game went on because the game was boring. Come up to the second half, fans were up for it again. We got the goal. The place then started rocking, and that makes a difference. And even the West Ham fans, and I said it in the video I did, they were really quiet. They were really quiet, which is unusual for them. They're usually really, really up for it. From where I was sitting, I'm in the South Stand, but from where I was, couldn't hear anything from them. I think at one point we were singing "We Forgot You Were Here," so that's how it felt, right? So. Yeah, so for me, I think I'd love to see us come out and really have a go at it and really push them, but I just don't think I don't think that's the tactics that Conte employs that he wants us to do. I think he wants us to feel them out first and give them a bit of time and then kind of really go for them and grow into the game. But that's how it seems. It may not be that. It may not be that at all, obviously.
Right. So Gareth, Holly, and I are all going for wins. Lee, you're going to go for a 1-1 draw. Lee, there's lots of rumours and reports going around at the moment about Eric Dier possibly signing a brand new contract at the club. At the West Ham game, he won his 350th appearance, becoming the 28th player in the club's history to reach 350 appearances. I'm going to ask you the straightforward question. Does Eric Dier deserve a new contract at the Spurs?
Oh, Jesus.
Yes or no?
No. Not in my opinion. I don't think he's good enough. Listen, as a man and as a leader and as a trier, I rate him. I think he works really hard. He clearly cares about the club. He clearly wants to do a good job and everything else. I just don't think he's good enough for a team that should be challenging the Champions League and getting into the top four. But that's just an opinion, and I'm sad to say that because the guy has put an awful lot of years into Tottenham, and he has improved as a player from when he first came. But I just don't think he's good enough.
Gareth, you're a football coach. Every single coach that has come in to Tottenham with Eric Dier, they seem to love him.
I think it's just his mentality, isn't he? He has that sort of aura with him. But at this rate, Chris, if we give him a new contract, they'll be having a testimonial for him, and he'll be we'll be putting up a highlight reel of all his mistakes. Everyone he's let us down. You know, he's let us down more times than he's pulled us out. I think he's ultra consistent in terms that he rarely gets injured. You know, you look back over the last 3 years, he's played nearly every game. He rarely gets injured, and I think a lot of managers like that. And the fact that he's quite consistent and he can play different positions. He's played midfield for us. He's played right back for us. He's played back, centre back, and a 2. He's played centre back and a 3. I think a lot of coaches really like that. But personally, I don't see it. You know, you've never heard of a team being interested in him. You know, you think about players that are being linked with him. He's never ever linked with a move. That tells you everything. Nobody else would take it.
Man United were at one time.
Where who?
Man United were.
Years ago.
That's because they have the fridge. Dier's slightly better.
But I mean, like, you look at Liverpool now. Liverpool's an absolute mess. If we offered them Dier for free, they wouldn't take him. That's how bad. You know, he's not rated at all. So, you know, personally for me, I think he's all right. If he was a squad player, it wouldn't be as bad. The fact that he's a starting player, I'm not sure about that at all. You know, but what age is he now? Is he 27, 28?
28, I think.
28. So he's been here a long time, and you know, I think if he gets that contract, that's basically him here until he's moved on at a later age for a cut price fee. He didn't cost a lot of money, to be fair, but I just don't think if we're extending his contract, that will worry me in terms of, you know, who's coming in the summer. Because if you're extending his contract, it's going to be on. He's going to be getting a pay raise as well, I'd imagine, if he's getting a new contract. So is that going to guarantee him a starting place? You know, for me, I would rather have Romero and a top. You know, Conte likes to play with 3, but for me, I'd love to see us sign a top centre back in the summer, possibly even 2, because I'm not convinced on the other centre backs we have. You know, Rodon, is he going to come back? We haven't seen enough of him at Spurs. They make our minds up with him. Rennes seem to love him, to be fair. Rennes seem to be really a big fan of him. So there could be potential he actually signs on for Rennes. But for me, we need 2 top quality centre-backs for Conte. If he's going to play his football, as Lee said, he likes to be quite tight at the back and negative at times, and it does drive me mad. But, if it gets results, I'll be all for it. And the only way we're going to get results playing that way is with top defenders. So we're going to have to sign 2. Personally, we've been linked with a lad, the Croatian centre-back, played for Leipzig, Garvidal, or, I've watched him a few times. He looks top-notch. He would be my preference, but there's going to be a lot of teams, Chris, fighting for that type of player. And I think, coming back to it, whilst we all won trophies, that is why the top 4 is important. Liverpool have been looking for Bellingham for a couple of years now, and it's been kind of like a done deal. He's going there, but all of a sudden now, because they're maybe not in the top 4, there's question marks about it. So if we're going to sign the top players, the European top players, they always want to play in the Champions League, Chris. So I think that's why it's really important we finish top 4. As much as we all want to win trophies, we have to find a way of doing both. And this weekend's a massive weekend, I think. Newcastle's not playing because they're playing the cup final. Liverpool have a tough game away at Palace tomorrow night. You know what Palace is like under the lights. It's always a tough game. Liverpool are fragile. I can see them getting turned over. The fact that Zaha's back, if we're sitting at 3 o'clock on Sunday, Liverpool have been beat or draw. Newcastle haven't played and we beat Chelsea. We're favourites for that 4th position, Chris. So it's a pivotal weekend. We have to take advantage.
Dean has just confirmed, by the way, that Dier is 29. Holly, let's come to you. Sport in Spain are stating that Spurs are thinking about making the Clement Lenglet signing a permanent one in the summer. Would you be happy if that business was done?
I mean, I wouldn't not be happy because we've just spoken about giving a contract to Dier, so it just kind of alleviates the fact that our backline's quite old. So I don't think he's done a bad job. Again, if he's going to be there for a rotation player, cool, but that means we have to go and sign someone in the summer to obviously go alongside the likes of Romero, because like Gareth has said, giving Dier another contract, you think to yourself, oh my word, does that mean we're not getting another defender in to bring ourselves up? So in terms of Lenglet, I wouldn't be displeased with it, but I just want something more as well, if that makes sense. I know as Spurs fans, we always want more, but I think that kind of shows where we are as a fan base. We're getting to that point where we're impatient because we want to win trophies. We've waited a long time to be able to do so. And when you've got the foundations of Harry Kane, you've got the foundations of Son, you've got Romero, surely now you're thinking, okay, we just need to add a few more players and this could really click. So Lenglet, fine, cool, get it done, but I want someone else as well.
That would really worry me, Chris. If we give Dier a new contract and sign Lenglet, I would be really worried. I think the protest might start again because the people would be thinking, are we going to get a centre back again? Because if we're signing a player on a new contract and signing a player for me that's not done enough, I think he's done okay, but I want better. There's a reason Barcelona let him go. Barcelona just conceded 4 goals against Man United over 2 games, and they were really off it at the back. That was their weak link. And if he can't get on that team, why is he good enough for us?
Holly, let me come back to you on that point, because the amount of times that I think Spurs fans say, oh yeah, well, he's a squad player, he's okay. Should we be accepting he's okay? Shouldn't we be aiming a lot higher than that? Because, at some point, we want to be challenging for the real top honours, the Premier League title. Some people might laugh at that, but that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? So shouldn't we be targeting top players, not signing players that are just okay or squad players?
We should be, but again, with Spurs, we never seem to do so. Like all of us, we all want to win trophies. We all want to be tightening, banging for that, knocking on that title door, but it never seems to happen. Because like I say, yeah, we do go for okay players, but I think if you get the foundations right, which at the moment, Lenglet's only just come in, and I know he hasn't maybe had the best of times, but when he's coming in, he's done an okay job. But you've got the likes of Dier that's been there for years, and we're still putting up with that mediocre player. I think in terms of that, I think that's where we're really at this point of, okay, we want to do better, but how comes we've still got Dier that's been here since way before time? That's my problem. If you want to get in top players, you need to shift out the players that have been here for so long. And I think we always bang on about mentality as Spurs fans, but that's because we've got the same players the whole time that have the same mentality. So I think it's a very hard kind of discussion to have in terms of, we all want better, but how are you going to get better if you're still stuck with the same players? Before you get them out, there's no way you're going to bring anybody else in, I think, sadly.
How would you look to improve the starting 11, Holly, in the summer?
Have you got a list? Have you got a piece of paper? I think for me, like we've all kind of said tonight, it's that defence, because we always say we've got a great attacking force. We can counter-attack, but as soon as we've got a team that want to come at us, we just capitulate. Especially, I think we've got better at set pieces of defending things, but as soon as one head goes, they kind of all go. And I think Romero has really been the guy that's kind of gelled that back line together. We saw it when Romero was out. We had Dier at the back and it went to pieces. So I think if we get another defender in that's of the same ability of Romero or better, because like you said, we want to get players in that are better, then yeah, okay, I'll be thinking to myself, all right, we're making steps of progress. But until that defence is fixed, again, like you say, I don't know where else, because I think everywhere else we're kind of okay. And I know people talk about a creative midfielder, but if Conte is still here, Conte isn't going to want to play with a creative midfielder unless he's forced to. And then that's another opinion that you got another argument of, well, if Conte doesn't want a creative midfielder, he's not going to go get one, is he? So, yeah, I think it's difficult right now to say what I'd want, because we still got Conte at the helm, because this in the next couple of months, it could be a totally different ballgame.
Lee, let's come to you. Rodrigo Bentancur, some reports are stating that he's going to be out until September. Sky Sports reported yesterday he's going to be out until November. This is a huge loss to us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been one of the better players and one of the better signings that we've had, along with Kulusevski. You know, I don't think we've had a better signing for a while. You know, Romero you can kind of put up there. So yeah, it's a massive loss, especially as we've lost Bissouma as well. But Sarr does look like a decent player, and hopefully he can get a bit more game time and really show what he's about, you know. And hopefully that will give us enough to kind of get us through. But to lose a player like Bentancur is, you know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I just wanted to go back on the point that you made about shouldn't we be looking for better players, because shouldn't we be challenging for the title and so on. That's a fan. The problem with that is that's a fan's opinion. That's a fan's opinion. It's not necessarily a owner's position, and that's where the golf in what we do and what we want it comes from. You know, that's why they're happy with someone like Eric Dier to keep going, because he's doing all right. He's ticking over. He keeps us going. He's consistent. He don't keep getting injured and blah blah blah. So he's a safe option, as opposed to splashing out 65 million on someone like Ndombele, who comes in and is absolutely pants for us, and we can't shift him on 200 grand a week. You know, that's not a good business model for someone like Daniel Levy, and that's a real difficulty, because we have taken a punt and spent a lot of money here and there on certain players, and they just never seem to work out for us.
What do you think will happen with all those players, Lee? The Ndombeles, the Celso, etc., all coming back in the summer?
I think they'll basically put them out on loan again and try to just recoup some money, because at this moment in time I don't see anybody really spending that kind of money on all these players. You know, the money that we've invested in them, I don't see us getting that back. So I think it's a case of taking what we can and reducing the wage pool so that we can invest in other places. You know, but those players that are out there not really tearing it up, are they? So they're not really ingratiating themselves with the clubs they're at to really make a statement payment for them. So I personally don't think they've got a future at Tottenham, and I think they'll need to be loaned out again.
Gareth, let's come to you. Lots of rumours and reports, and I think it's expected by a lot of people at the moment that Conte won't be Spurs manager next season. Lots of rumours and reports are going around stating that Spurs are impressed by Roberto De Zerbi of Brighton. What do you think of him, and would he be a name that you'd be pleased with if he did replace Conte? Well,
you look the way Brighton are playing. It's hard not to be impressed, but I'd have reservations about that, because it's only been such a short. You know, when I said about Pottery, he had been doing it at Brighton for a few years. You know, De Zerbi's only come on there, you know, since Potter's left. So you're judging him on a short space of time. You know, that will be a big gamble. But they are playing some great football, and they you know, he's obviously got his Brighton in terms of their whole structure. They've got an eye for a player. De Zerbi's come on, and Brighton had that issue if they were creating chances but not scoring goals. But all of a sudden now they are scoring goals. So I don't know what was happening there. Well, our players were letting them down in front of the goal, and now it's just clicked. if you look at it last week, it was kind of like the old Brighton come back. They absolutely battered Fulham, but just couldn't put the ball in the net. Look, if he comes in, I tell you, there'll be a massive shift in the terms of football. You'll be excited. Whether that brings you the results is another question, but there'll definitely be an excitement around him because his teams do play good football. He's not your typical Italian manager that, defends and sits back. So, in terms of entertainment, I would be all for it. But, this Conte thing's really up in the air, Chris, because you know what? If you look at it on paper, we're still in a good position. If he finishes top 4 and if he was to win a cup and he was to say, look, I'm stepping down because I don't believe the support, the board's not backing me, then there's going to be absolutely, it's going to go mental in the summer in terms of the fans are really going to be on the owner's back. And Levy's going to be under serious pressure. So there's a lot can happen between now and May. And you know what, Chris, as much as we've criticised the football at times, it's what results in the matter. If we was to finish top 4 and win a cup, no one will remember the boring first half against West Ham. People will remember us holding the FA Cup up or finishing in the top 4. So it's a really tricky one. It all depends on how the season finishes, Chris. With Conte, I think if Conte was to finish top 4 and he was they won a trophy, then as much as I've criticised him for his style of play, you have to give him the money. You really do, because he's earned it. He will have done something that no other Spurs manager's done. Since when he was a disaster, but he won a cup. But in terms of backing it up with league position as well, that would be a first for us for a long, long time. So it all depends on results between now and the end of the season, Chris. But if he does move on, the Zebra is definitely on the short list. But I do think there's other options out there with more experience.
Well, I've got 2 last questions for all of you. Who will be the Spurs manager on the 1st of August? Who will take pre-season next in the summer? And where will Spurs finish in the league table at the end of this season? Holly, let's start with you.
I'm going to go Conte. And I'm going to say, it sounds horrendous, but personally, I would rather win a trophy than finish top 4 this season. Because yes, I know it brings players in, but I feel like we need a big culture shock with the guys at the top to be like, look, you need to invest something because it is going to be hard again to finish top 4. So I'm going to say trophy and 5th.
Trophy. Wow. Okay. And Conte, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm going to say Conte's going to stay.
Can I ask you why you're so confident about Conte?
Just because I think it's impatience. We nearly had a trophy with Jose. Yes, again, it wasn't the nicest football, but we were grinding out results. So for me, I'd rather have a man that plays boring, but we win something at the end of the day, than watch someone that plays pretty football and win nothing and have nothing to show for it. And we've tried the pretty football. Yes, there's loads of arguments that Poch was never back, this, that, and the other. But if another creative manager comes in, who's to say he's not going to get backed again? And I know people are saying they want Poch in again, but what's to say he's going to get backed again? I think while we've got Conte, let's just run with him, I think. And if it's going to be boring, but we're going to win a trophy, so be it.
I'm going to say, Holly, I would love Conte to stay, and I would like him to stay. That would be my preferred choice, but I can see Pochettino coming back. I really can.
Oh, man. I don't dislike the guy. I loved him because he gave me the best years of my life watching Tottenham play, but we don't have anything to show for it. And that's my only thing. And if he wasn't backed in the first place, what has changed for that to happen now? Because the players are still here that he had, basically. Like, nothing has changed. So, yeah, I right now, I think it's too soon to bring Poch back. Give it maybe after Conte's gone or one other manager, and then later on bring Poch back. I just think now is too soon.
Yeah, I think whether we want it or not as the fans, I think that's what we're going to get.
Because
Lee?
actually, sorry. I was just going to say that would be a way to say to the fans, don't worry, guys, we brought back the guy you love, so you can love us again. I think that's what they did with Conte. They brought Nuno in, and everybody kicked off about it, and they thought, don't worry, guys, we've got Conte anyway. And it will be a neutralizer. It'll be like, it's all right, guys, don't worry.
Trying to appease the fans, isn't it? It's trying to appease the fans.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. No, Lee, what are you going for? Where do you think we'll finish at the end of this season? Who will be the Spurs manager at the start of next season?
I think we may sneak into the top 4, just about. I've skin of our teeth maybe, and I think it'll probably end up someone like Ryan Mason. I mean, Ryan Mason will probably end up as the manager. You know, Conte will probably walk away, and they'll go for the easy option. Remember, it was me that said that Nuno would be our manager. Do you remember I said that? Like one of the times I was on here, and I was right. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest that he's not being lined up, because the media are already talking to Stellini about him being a manager and all the rest of it. It just wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Ryan Mason. You really think Ryan Mason?
I don't really think Ryan Mason, but it wouldn't shock me, put it that way. But I agree about the Pochettino thing. I think, if anything, they would bring Pochettino back just to be able to say, oh yeah, he was the one, and he's got unfinished business, and it'll appease a load of the fans and all the rest of it. But you could make a whole podcast just debating Pochettino, yes or no. So
yeah. As I said, Lee, on this channel many times, I'd love to see Pochettino back one day, but I just feel that there is so much Antonio Conte needs to do at this football club, and I just hope he gets the time to do it.
I don't think I've got another project in me. I just don't think I've got enough years left to go through another rebuilding project. I think this is the time. Now's the time to bring me a trophy so that I can celebrate one last time before I kick my heels in.
Yeah. I love it how all three of you mentioned trophies before me. Gareth, what do you reckon?
Look, we spoke about it before. We Conte. Look, I think if he was going to sign, he would have signed by now. I think what I was saying before was just how it'll be interpreted. You know, if he were to finish 5th or 6th and not win a trophy, I don't think there'll be much of a fuss made if he does go, because I think he's faded over this season, really. I think if he was to finish top 4, and I think he's leading now, and he wins a cup, and he says, you know, I left because it wasn't backed, and there's going to be absolutely chaos around that, because, you know, the board's going to get hammered. But I think he's going anyway, Chris, because the contract would have been signed by now. As I said, they've had numerous chats. You know, we're nearly in March now. You know, what's the hold up? You know, nothing's going to be that different in the summer. So I do think it is just about getting the end of the season. So I do think he will be leaving. Who I like and who we're going to get's a different thing. I think Poch will be back. You know, as Holly says, had some, you know, unbelievable times under Poch. The way we played, the connection between the fans and the players and the team. You know, we haven't really had that since Poch has left. But as Holly says, for all that great football, we failed to turn up at the big moments. And we have, and to be fair, we have since as well. Even under Mourinho, we didn't want a cup. You know, if Conte leaves and we don't want a cup, is that really any different? You know, so for me personally, Chris, and this is going to sound crazy because it's another ex-Chelsea manager. I would. Thomas Tuchel's available. I wouldn't be against him coming on. I think he's got the pedigree. He's won a league. Sorry, he's won the FA Cup with Chelsea, hasn't he? And he's won the Champions League with Chelsea. You know, and he played good football at Chelsea as well. I think he was caught in the midst of that whole changeover. And you know, when a new owner comes on, they always want to pick a new manager. We've seen it with Newcastle. You know, Steve Bruce lasted one game. You know, and first sign of a couple of bad results at Chelsea, they pulled the coach out and they put their own man on. So, you know, I think he was hard done by at Chelsea, and there's a lot of Chelsea fans are absolutely gutted that he's still not the manager. And if he was still available in the summer, he would be my number one target. And he's also a Spurs fan apparently as well. So he's actually openly said that. So maybe that could be an extra incentive for him to come. But I do think we're going to have Pochettino back, Chris, and only time will tell if that's the right decision.
Yes, I agree. Gareth, thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure having you back. Tell everyone where they can find you on social media and what you're up to at the moment.
All right, at Yars Hotspurs, mainly talking Spurs or Premier League football. Do a bit of coaching as well at amateur level. So, as I said, be great to get a couple more followers. And again, thanks for some of the comments on the shows recently. These are absolutely brilliant, and stay tuned in because these podcasts are brilliant as well.
Thank you very much, Gareth. And Holly, thanks so much for coming back. And actually, we didn't even mention your Match of the Day appearance. You must talk about that.
Oh man, no, thank you for inviting me on. I do love, as much as I love doing Holly's Hotspurs and being the host, I actually like sometimes talking about my own opinions. So thank you, Chris, for inviting me on. Yeah, I was weirdly on Match of the Day with Expressions, which was a bit surreal, not gonna lie. But yeah, no, it's quite nice to then obviously win that day as well. Otherwise, it would have been a bit of a yeah, not a great day. But yeah, I literally just do a podcast every Monday at 7 p.m, go over everything that's happened at the weekend, and that's pretty much it. You can find me on all socials at my name, Holly Agenbar. But yeah, make sure everybody likes and subscribes to Chris's show because it is class. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Holly, thank you so much. And Lee, a pleasure having you back, and tell everyone about your YouTube channel because it's growing, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very slowly, Chris. Very slowly, slow but sure. A bit like myself, I'm still plodding away. Yeah, so I'm leader Dorset Spur. You'll find me on every bloody where that I can get my name. I put it out there. I'm still working on my OnlyFans, Chris. As I said last time I was on, I've still got some work to do on that, but I'm building up my portfolio ready. So yeah, so leader Dorset Spur. You'll find me on there. I have got a YouTube channel. I do videos on there every so often after games and stuff like that. So it'd be great to have people come along and subscribe. That'd be great.
Lee, just tell everyone what sort of videos they can expect from your channel. It's mainly you talking after the games, isn't it, and dissecting the game.
Yeah, pretty much. I just kind of give my opinion on how the game's gone and stuff like that, and any kind of big stories. I did one about he who shouldn't be mentioned and about him being upset about people still not liking him and things like that. So I kind of talk about anything that really takes my fancy, but generally speaking, I'm doing a review of how I felt the game went rather than how everybody else felt. And I like to think that I'm sort of calm and collected and very honest. If we're good, we're good. If we're bad, we're bad. So
yes. Well, Lee, pleasure having you back. Lee, Gareth, Holly, thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for watching and for listening. And I will see you after the Chelsea game back on this channel, hoping we are talking about a win. Until then, come on, you Spurs.